again, everyone! So, this is the pixel art program I was talking about, and it's actually a browser extension, so you don't even have to download anything. And this is called PiskelApp, so you would get to it by going to PiskelApp.com. And what you can do here is just you can create some really cool pixel art, especially like character animations and stuff. So, I'm just going to hit sign in. I mean, you can make an account through Google, and that's just what I ended up doing, so I'll go through this one. And as you can see here, when you make an account, you will have your gallery of all the things that you've made. So this is it all right now. There are ones that are public that you can check by clicking right here. Although I don't have any that are public, so none should show up. Private, almost all of mine are private, so they're all going to show up again. And you can see your deleted ones. My computer is being slow because I'm rendering another video at the same time as making this one. Very cool. So yes, these are some that I've deleted before. I don't know how long it keeps your deleted ones for, but if you delete something and then really quickly realize, I didn't actually want to delete that, you can go back in there and check for those. So basically, this program is really neat and it's really simple to use. So if you hit the Create Sprite button right here, you'll see it says there's a new Piskel. And it's got some really simple and basic features, and it'll be pretty easy to go over them all. So here's your pen size. This is like 1 pixel. This is 4 pixels. This is 9 pixels. And this is the biggest one. I'm not quite actually sure how many pixels it is. Boop. Yeah, it's pretty big. I'll put them all right next to each other so that you can see. That's the eraser. So yeah, those are your different pen sizes. And I'll erase it. And over here we have some really cool things. So your preferences, you can choose what your background looks like. I like to keep it right here. You can choose layer opacity, maximum FPS, color format. I don't actually normally touch this stuff, but it's really cool that you can like edit all of these. So here's resize. So right now my canvas is currently set to 16 pixels in width and 32 pixels in height. So if I were to draw something and export it, it would be 16 by 32. Very, very small. You can click this to maintain your aspect ratio. So let's say I wanted to make it like 320. It would automatically change the other one to 160. But I'm not going to do that. And you can choose the anchor. So like let's say you already have something here, but you want to make it bigger. You can choose the anchor at which it like expands it. So that's pretty cool. I'm actually going to go 64 by 64 because that's normally what I like to use. I hit resize. It is now 64 by 64. And now we can start drawing. So this is the pen tool right here. As you can see, this program actually isn't tablet friendly, so you will have to use a mouse. It's a little strange, but it is free, and it's like a browser extension, so, you know, you take what you can get. But, yeah, you can, like, what I normally find helpful is, like, I freehand it, and then if I don't like something, I'll just erase that later. So, let's say I wanted to make an apple, for example. I could go over here. So, these are my palettes. I can choose a number of palettes that I've made before. So, these are ones that I've used in the past. I think I'll go with happy. Let's see. I'll go with ProTag. ProTag seems good. So yes, you can make a new palette by clicking this plus sign right here, and you can rename your palette. I'll call this, actually, you know what? I'll make a new palette for this. I'll call it Apple. So there, I have Apple, and as you can see, this is the only color that's in Apple right now. This is just straight black. I can add another one using this. It'll actually duplicate the color right here. You can delete colors using this little X. And I think I'm going to change, I need like a nice red color. I'll take like a darker red color for the outside. I'll duplicate this color, and I'll use the slider right here to actually change color, so that way I can do that. Maybe I'll make this one just a little bit darker. And then I'll need like some kind of shine, so I'll use like an off red-ish sort of color, or just kind of like an off-white. Now we'll need some leaves, so I'll make some green. Make a lighter green. And then make a super dark green. Okay, so now I have my little apple palette right here. Now you can switch through colors by clicking, and your active color will show up on this side right here, your primary one. Now if you hit X, you can switch colors, so you could have 2 different colors active, and you can just switch through them like this. And now, if I use the pen tool, I can just get like a rough shape of what an apple might be. So let's like maybe add a bit more here. Maybe add a bit down here. Okay, that's roughly the shape of an apple. So what I want to do now is this is the eraser tool. I'm going to erase, maybe make my brush a bit smaller. I'm going to erase some of the edges that I don't necessarily want. Kind of clean it up a bit. I do want the bottom to have like kind of a more tapered look to it. So the bottom of the apples like that, like that, like that. And I'm just left clicking with my mouse to use this tool. Left clicking. Okay, do that. Maybe a bit of that, maybe a bit of that. And a little bit more appley. So now I'm going to change to the smallest pen tool, and I'm going to hit X, and I'm going to change the color. And I'm actually just going to make a little outline for what my little apple shadow is going to look like. There we go. So now instead of going in and filling it all in with the pen, I'm going to click the paint bucket tool, and I'm going to fill it in just like that. Wow. Beautiful. Amazing. Awesome. So now I have an apple, kind of weirdly shaded, but just an example. So just edit it up a bit more. And there. Slightly shaded apple. I'll do the same thing for the shine. I'm going to make a little dot right here. Do that. And then I'm going to make a little stem. Erase these. Fill this in. Add a bit of brightness to it. I didn't really differentiate those colors too much, so I'm actually going to go back into my palette, and I'm going to darken this color so that way you can differentiate them a bit more. And now I'm going to use the paint all pixels of the same color. So this one's really cool. Basically, I can barely tell the difference between the darker ones and the lighter ones. But if I click on one of the darker pixels, all of the darker colored pixels will change into this new color that I've made. So that's really, really helpful if you want to, like, say, you have like dots scattered everywhere, and you have this, and you have this, and you have this, and you want to change the color of them all, but like, it's just so much work to try to go and change them one by one. Instead, you can use the paint all pixels of the same color, click it, and wow, they're all there now. It's amazing. They're all different colors. So cool. So yeah, that's pretty neat. I think I might add an outline to my apple. Very rough outline, and I'll erase that later. Cool. Hit X and I'll fill that in. Use the eraser. And now, there we go. That's awesome. So normally with pixel art, you'd want to kind of avoid these like little double up edges right here. As you can see, it's like they've there's a pixel that's like touching two different pixels at the same time. It's like, it just makes it look a little bit thicker. Well, honestly, it's a stylistic choice, so if you want to have that kind of look to it, you can. But if you want a thinner line art, then you can just remove those, which helps. I kind of like to think of pixel art as less like actual drawing and a bit more like molding something. Molding it to what you want it to be. Because, especially since I can't use my tablet, it doesn't feel like my normal drawing. I kind of just like put blobs down and then start shaping them the way I want to. So it kind of helps to look at pixel art like that. So there we go. Now we have a meh apple. We've got an okay apple. Maybe I'll add some shading. Maybe I'll add some shading down here, and like, you know, the stem part, it's like all shaded in and stuff. Yep. So yes, we have this standard apple. Now, what if we want to animate this apple? So I'm just going to do a really quick and basic, it's floating up and down. Well, if we want to do that, we can add a new frame, and as you can see, it's already started animating in this little corner right here. We probably don't want it at 12 FPS. I think I'll keep it at 4, and so now you can see the apple's flickering back and forth between these two different frames. Now, if you don't want to see it flicker like that while you're still working, you can just make it 0 FPS and won't flicker anymore. And what we're going to want to do is turn on this toggle onion skin. So now you can see where the apple was before in this new layer. So we have this apple right here, and I don't want to redraw the entire thing, so I'll just take this rectangle selection tool, and I'll select all of this. And now I'm going to press Control C and Control V. So now we have the apple on this place as well, or this frame. And what we're going to want to do is, if we want to move it, we're going to want to select it with the selection tool. You could also use this lasso selection. It works a little bit strangely. So you have a point right here, and then when you move it, it's like you're drawing a circle. So you're going to have to like draw all the way up to where you want to, and then that's how it's going to work. Now, if you want to move things, you want to hold down the Shift button, and then you can move your apple. So that way it moves up like that. So when you select something, then you hold down Shift, you can move the item up and down. And now I'm going to turn off the onion skin real quick, and let's see what it looks like. There we go, it's bobbing up and down. It's bobbing up and down in a very standard way. Very cool. So now we have that. We've made an apple. We know how to use these little tools over here. I mean, there's some other things too, like this is the circle tool. It'll help you make a circle. This is the rectangle tool. It'll help you make a rectangle. Lighten and darken. So you can like lighten and darken certain colors. I normally wouldn't do this. I would just choose your colors like accordingly, because lighten and darken just really, it just like changes the well, not the saturation. It changes like the amount of black added to the color basically. So if we were to take this, and it says Control to darken and Shift to apply once per pixel. So we hit Control. As you can see, when I click it, it darkens it, but it's really just like adding black to it. It's not the best way to go about it, I don't think. I don't normally use that. There's also a dithering tool, and what dithering is it like, as you can see right here, it swaps between your primary and your secondary color in a checkered pattern. I also don't normally use the dithering tool that much, because when you're dithering, and dithering is basically just like, let's say you have I'm going to use the stroke tool, it'll make a straight line. So let's say you have this right here, and it's just like, you know, standard color. Hit X, and I want to make like, you know, this one, it's darker. So there, and I want to blend between the two. Well, with dithering, you would slowly incorporate pixels of one color into pixels of the other color, so that way you can create the illusion of blending, despite the fact that you have such a limited like size to work with. So with normal blending, you could just like, you know, blend the colors in together with a tool and smooth them out and make it look like a nice, clean gradient. But you can't really do that in pixel art. So what you normally have to end up doing is dithering the colors together, kind of like this. And then normally you might have like a third color too that goes in there. But yeah, something like that. And this dithering tool, it'll it gets the job done. It's very mechanical though. It's very mechanical. It's very just straight checkers. And as you can see, straight checkers don't always look the best. You wanna add like some kind of other pattern in there as well. So that way it doesn't just look like two colors separated by a checkerboard. So just kind of like do that, and then hit X, like remove some of these, 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 add a little bit more randomness back into this. Hit X again, like, you know. And you can just make cooler things when you like dither by hand. So yeah, that's the dithering tool. Any other tools I should cover while I'm here? Ah, yeah, the shape selection tool. So it'll select a certain shape, certain color. Let's see, stroke tool, already covered that. Straight line. Oh, the vertical mirror pen. So the vertical mirror pen, when you draw on one side, it'll mirror it on the other side. I don't think you can change the axis in which it does it. It's just straight up and down, but that can be pretty useful if you want to make a symmetrical thing. All right then. So now we have an apple, and it's animated. It just moves up and down. Very cool. We know how to toggle the onion skin, so that way we can see how the apple moves. But let's say we want to add something else to the apple. Let's say we want to add a worm coming out of the apple. Well, I don't want to like draw the worm on this layer. Like here, let me add cute little pink color, and then like a dark color for the eyes. Okay, so if I start drawing the worm on here and then I mess up, I'm going to want to erase it, but then I'm going to erase my apple too. So instead what you want to do is make a new layer. So right now we're on layer 1. When you create a new layer, then as you can see, the apple has moved into like this transparent state. So you can see it, but you can't actually affect it. Now I can start making my little worm. Worm, 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 worm. And then I'm going to take this, Control C, Control V, and I'm just going to take this, Shift, move the head up, Shift, move the body up a bit, and now, oh yeah, I probably want to move the entire worm up as well. Because the worm is actually like right here on the apple. So let's see. So yeah, now we have a slightly little wiggly worm. Here, I'll move this like down a bit. I'll erase this pixel right here. And now we have a wiggly worm for our apple on a completely different layer. Perfect. And then maybe I'll add like a bit of shading under the worm to make it look like it's actually coming out of the apple. Alright, cool. So now we have this, but what's next? What do we do next? How do we go about getting it out and into the world? Well, here we have, oh, I almost forgot. Save your Piskel. I'm going to name this Apple Tutorial. And you just hit save to gallery, and it'll save it to the gallery that you see back here. If I hit refresh, then, come on. There it is, the apple. But yeah, that's saving. Very important. I probably should have said that first. So you can save it 3 ways. In your gallery, save in your browser. So it'll be saved on this browser, although if you exit out of it, that'd be kind of bad. Or you could save it as a .piskel, and it'll just save it as like a file that you can re-access and like re-import back into here through local save files. You can also import different pictures as well, so keep that in mind. And here's where you can recover recent sessions. So the exporting though, when you export it, you have the option to make it as big as you want. So it's originally 64 by 64, but if you wanted to make your apple slightly bigger, like 512 by 512, you can change it using the scale. You can export it in many different ways as well. So you can either export it as a GIF, and it'll like loop repeatedly or not loop repeatedly depending on what you want. So it'll move when you actually export it, or you can upload it as an animated GIF to a public URL. So you can use this URL and say, hey guys, I made this, and then send it to other people. They can click on it. It'll bring them to Piskel, and they'll be like, whoa, you made that. That's so cool. Or you could do a PNG. Now, you can make a sprite sheet of your different layers. So what it'll actually do is it'll create a sprite sheet with your first layer on top, and then your second layer on bottom, underneath it, 1 column, 2 rows, just like that. You can download the sprite sheet file. Oh yeah, you can change the layout of the sprite sheet as well. So if you wanted them to be next to each other instead of on top of each other, you could do that. You could say 2 columns, 1 row. I'll just keep it like this though. Data URI export. Don't quite know what that is. I don't mess with that. Pixie.js movie export. Don't quite know what that is. I don't mess with that. Or you could just download the selected frame as just a single PNG. So you could like, if you have this frame selected, you can export it as a PNG, and then you can export this one as a PNG as well. I'm actually going to export this as a sprite sheet because let's say we want to use these as like, you know, game assets or something. Then we could do that. We're going to go over here, go to artwork, go to game artwork, and I'll just save it as Apple Tutorial PNG. And now you can see if we go into artwork, game art, Apple Tutorial PNG. Woo! It's a sprite sheet. So yeah, that's basically the gist of this program. In my next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use Unity, but not normal Unity. I'm going to show you how to use this free program, or this free Unity asset called Fungus. So I'll see you then.